The silent signs your ex is miserable in their rebound. They moved on fast, smiling in photos, posting date nights, maybe even calling this new person the one, but something in your gut says, it's not what it looks like. You're not crazy, you're not bitter, you're just sensing something deeper. Are they actually happy, or are they pretending to you and to themselves? Here's what most people won't admit. A lot of rebound relationships look picture perfect, but under the surface, they're full of cracks. Because when someone jumps into something new before they've healed what's old, they're not building connection. They're creating a distraction. And the truth is, even if your ex would never tell you they're struggling, their behavior does. In this video, we're breaking down the silent signs your ex is miserable in their rebound. The behaviors that scream discomfort, insecurity, or regret, even when everything looks fine from the outside. Because once you see the truth clearly, you can stop obsessing and start letting go with peace. Let's get into it. Let's get one thing straight. Rebound relationships aren't always fake, but they're rarely stable. They often start fast. They feel exciting. They create the illusion of moving on. But underneath, they're built on emotional avoidance, not emotional readiness. Psychologists define a rebound relationship as a reactive attachment formed before a person has processed their previous breakup. Why does it happen? Because breakups create emotional instability, identity confusion, and a loss of routine, comfort, and validation. So instead of sitting with that pain and healing it, some people run towards someone new to fill the gap. Depending on their attachment style, this plays out differently. Anxious types seek instant reassurance. I just need to know I'm still lovable. Avoidant types try to regain control. I'll prove I didn't care anyway. In both cases, the new relationship becomes an emotional shield. It looks like confidence, but it's often fear. It looks like they've moved on, but it's often panic, disguised as passion. And that's the setup for misery, because once the high wears off, they're still left with the emotional wreckage they never faced. And that's when the silent signs start to show. Let's break them down now. You're not together, they're with someone new, but for some reason, your phone keeps lighting up with their name. A casual, hey, how've you been? A random meme they know you'd laugh at. Or maybe a late night text out of nowhere, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay. Remember when? Here's what's really going on. If their new relationship was emotionally fulfilling, they wouldn't need to lean on you. Reaching out, even in small, seemingly innocent ways, is often a sign of emotional confusion, regret, loneliness, or craving the emotional safety they had with you. They may say it's just checking in, but their subconscious is telling you something they can't say out loud. This new connection isn't grounding me. I miss the version of myself I was with you. I haven't fully let go. In your research file, this behavior was called emotional leakage. When someone's unresolved feelings show up in their behavior, even if they try to act like everything is fine. So, if they're still texting you, tagging you, sending you throwback messages, it's not nostalgia. It's emotional residue. The kind that doesn't exist when someone is truly happy in their next chapter. They're posting non-stop now, sunset selfies, holding hands on every story, gushing captions like so grateful for you, even tagging their new partner in things they used to tag you in. And from the outside, it might look like they're madly in love. But let's pause here. Genuine love doesn't need to be broadcasted constantly, especially not right after heartbreak. So what's really happening? This is called perception management. They're using social media to create a story, a distraction, an image, not just for their followers, but often for you. According to relationship psychologists, this overposting behavior is often tied to validation seeking. If I make it look real enough, maybe I'll believe it too. Avoidance, if I focus on them, I won't have to feel my grief. Revenge display, look what you lost. They're not necessarily trying to hurt you, but they are trying to prove something. To themselves, to others, or to fill the emptiness they still feel. Ask yourself, if they were truly grounded and happy, would they need to document every kiss, every dinner, every caption about healing? Probably not, because real healing is quiet. Real connection doesn't need performance. So, If their feed suddenly turns into a highlight reel of their new relationship, it might not mean they're happy, it might mean they're hurting, and trying very hard to convince the world they're not. Silent sign number 3. They're clearly trying to make you jealous. You suddenly see them show up in all the places you used to go, with their new partner. They're tagging mutual friends, wearing the hoodie you gave them, posting lyrics or quotes that sound suspiciously aimed at you, and you can't shake the feeling. Are they doing this for me to see? You're probably right. Here's why. Happy people don't broadcast to prove a point. Conflicted people do. When your ex is deliberately trying to trigger you, it's not a sign they've moved on. It's a sign they haven't emotionally detached. This behavior can show up in ways like flaunting their new partner around your mutual circles, over-tagging or posting stories where they know you'll see them, subtle digs and captions or inside jokes you'd understand, strategic look at me, now photos or updates. This isn't love, it's theater. Psychologists call this a reactive display. When someone uses visibility to cope with insecurity or emotional tension, the goal isn't connection, the goal is your attention. And if they're still putting this much energy into making sure you see them, that's not indifference. That's obsession, disguised as confidence. Here's what to remember. Real closure doesn't need a show. And real love doesn't compete with your pain. So if it feels like they're performing for you, they probably are. Silent sign number 4. Lingering attachments to you. They say it's over. They say they're happy. They say they've moved on, but they're still holding on. In quiet ways. Wearing that hoodie you gave them, still following your siblings or mom on social media, listening to your song, keeping your shared photos tucked away, but not deleted. These small things, they matter, because they're signs that you're still emotionally present, even in your absence. According to breakup psychology, people in rebound relationships often preserve emotional attachments to their ex in hidden, habitual ways. Not because they want to go back, but because they haven't fully let go. It's less about you, and more about how your connection shaped them. Your routines, comfort, and emotional rhythm are still echoing in their world. You may also notice they talk about you randomly. Even to their new partner, they keep your belongings just in case. They try to keep mutual friends close. Why? Because you still represent familiarity and emotional grounding. The rebound may be exciting, but you were safe. You were known. You were real. So, if you're still showing up in their world, even through objects, conversations, or online traces, know this. They haven't erased you. They've just repackaged their attachment in silence. Silent sign number 5. Subtle emotional breakdown. They might still be with that new person, still showing up online, still acting like everything's great, but behind the scenes, something's off. They look tired, their energy feels flat. They've picked up new vices, drinking more, staying out late, isolating when alone. Here's the truth, rebound relationships suppress pain, they don't process it. And suppressed emotions don't disappear, they leak out, slowly, silently, and often self-destructively. Your research file called this the emotional hangover. It's when the dopamine of a new connection fades, but the unresolved heartbreak resurfaces stronger than ever. The smiles look strained, the spark dims, the body carries what the mind won't say. Watch for signs like poor sleep or burnout, disinterest in passions or routines, mood swings, irritability or emotional numbness, changes in health, energy, or consistency, pulling away from mutual friends or isolating emotionally. Why does this happen? Because emotional pain demands attention, and when a rebound can't fulfill what it was never meant to heal, the cracks start to show. They're still hurting, they're still confused, and now they're carrying two burdens, the original breakup, and the emotional pressure of performing happiness with someone new. This isn't about karma, it's about emotional avoidance catching up, as it always does. Silent sign number 6. Mixed signals and hesitation in their new relationship. They're dating someone new, they seem committed, but something just doesn't add up. You start to notice the inconsistencies. They still haven't introduced their new partner to close friends or family. They dodge long-term plans. They flirt with other people while in the relationship. And once in a while, they still pop up in your space. These are mixed signals. and they speak volumes. Because if someone has truly moved on, their actions align with their new path. But if they're hesitating, sending conflicting messages, avoiding milestones and connection, that's not peace. That's emotional confusion. According to your research, this kind of behavior shows up in rebound dynamics when the person isn't emotionally anchored, feels regret or second-guessing, or hasn't fully processed the loss of the previous relationship. They might not say they're miserable, but their inconsistency exposes it. You might see them drunk texting you after months of silence, blocking then unblocking you, stalling on defining the new relationship, or confiding in mutual friends about not being sure. That's not clarity, that's the collapse of emotional certainty they were pretending to have. And here's what to remember. If someone is fully content with who they're with, they don't need to look backward, they don't leave cracks open, and they definitely don't send signals to the past. So if they're still wavering, still conflicted, still ping-ponging between attachment and avoidance, that's not forward motion. That's emotional inertia. How long rebounds typically last and why they usually don't. Here's the part most people don't talk about. Rebound relationships have an expiration date. They can start fast, they can feel intense, but most of the time, they burn out just as quickly as they began. So, how long do rebounds usually last? Psychologists say the average rebound relationship lasts between 3 to 6 months. Some crash in a few weeks, a few stretch past a year, but most collapse when the emotional high wears off, and the unresolved pain resurfaces. Why? Because the relationship wasn't built on healing, it was built on escape. When you rush into something new before doing the emotional work, you're essentially using that person to distract from your pain. They feel like safety, excitement, validation, but they're really a band-aid over grief. And as time passes, you stop feeling in love. You start seeing emotional flaws. The comparison to your ex, you, sneaks in, and suddenly it feels emptier than ever. If your ex is in a rebound, there's a good chance it's already started to shift, from comfort to tension, from relief to confusion, from connection to emotional fatigue. Because here's the truth, love can't be forced into the space where healing should have been. And when a rebound ends, it often ends painfully, not just for your ex, but for the new person who was unknowingly dragged into a process that wasn't theirs to fix. So if you're watching from the outside, wondering if it's real, let time tell the truth. It almost always does. What to do if you suspect they're miserable, and how to refocus on you. Maybe you've seen the signs. Maybe you're convinced their new relationship isn't what it seems. Maybe you're even tempted to reach out, to check in, to reconnect, to be their emotional safe space again. But here's what you need to hear, clearly and with love. It is not your job to heal someone who broke you. It is not your responsibility to interpret their regret. And it is definitely not your purpose to be their soft landing while they avoid their own growth. If your ex is miserable in their rebound, that's not your invitation to return. That's your confirmation to release. Because here's what usually happens. You reach out of empathy. You get drawn back into old emotions. They lean on you emotionally, but don't commit, and you end up hurt, again. Instead, here's what to do. Hold the boundary. If they reach out, be kind, but firm. You're not available for emotional gray zones. Protect your peace. Stop watching their story. Literally and emotionally. Mute them. Unfollow if needed. Your healing doesn't require proof of their pain. Journal the closure. Write what you wish they'd say, then write what you need to hear. Because closure doesn't come from them, it comes from clarity inside you. Anchor to the bigger truth. Their unhappiness isn't your validation. Their regret isn't your revenge. You don't need to win the breakup. You just need to win back your energy, your peace, your self-trust. Let them deal with their consequences. Let their rebound play out however it does. And let yourself move forward. Not as someone who was replaced, but as someone who outgrew the cycle. Final message, if you've seen the signs, if your gut has been screaming, this can't be real, they don't even look happy, you're probably right. But here's the truth that matters most. Whether your ex is miserable or not, your peace doesn't have to wait for their regret. You don't need proof they're hurting. You don't need evidence that they miss you. You don't need to win. Because your healing, your power, comes from within. Let them perform, let them pretend, let them figure out their lesson the hard way. You've already done the hardest part. You've stopped chasing the illusion. You're ready to move forward with clarity, not confusion. Drop a comment below with, "I'm choosing peace over proof." Let's remind each other that closure doesn't come from their behavior. It comes from our decision. Subscribe and like for more truth-based, emotionally intelligent content about healing, relationships, and becoming whole, whether they come back or not. Because you deserve a love that doesn't leave you guessing. And the more you heal, the less you need someone else to feel whole.